Atlas Audio Podcast Network.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Cleopatra ruled Egypt, Eleanor Roosevelt ran the White House, and Marie Antoinette, well, she probably also told them, let them drink wine. This is where history's fiercest women are going to meet modern-day boss babes. That's me and you. We're sipping something and serving hot takes to prove behind every great woman is a long list of receipts and a good sommelier on speed dial. Because empires may fall, but a woman with a wine glass is unbeatable. This is Whining About Herstory, the women's history podcast, where two badass boss babes talk about women from history that you probably haven't heard of, but definitely should have, and sip some badass wine to talk about those women with. I'm Kelley.
I don't think I've ever felt more pumped up in my
I know,
life.
right?
That was a really good intro.
Thank you.
That was really
I worked
like
that out.
That was really intense. I'm Emily, and I'm feeling really motivated.
Boss babe vibes.
Yeah, I'm feeling like, brr. Although none of the women mentioned your intro are ever going to make a real appearance on this podcast.
I'll have to like rewrite it, but with women we've covered.
Yep.
Had
Shepsut. Instead of Eleanor Roosevelt, Frances, crap, I'm blanking on her name, but she was the Secretary of Labor during FDR. Yeah. Damn it. Anyway. Yeah. And then
Sybil Ludington
rode across the New England states in the rain, uphill both ways.
Yep.
That's fantastic. Well, Kelley, my dear, sweet darling, what are we drinking today?
We are drinking another sponsored wine. And I forgot the name, so I got to pull it up.
I'm pulling it up right now because...
I apologize. It's not that we don't love you. It's that my brain does not retain information at the end of the week. It's another sponsored wine by Sofia Flores, a wonderful woman who is just of drinking age, hopefully drinking responsibly, who says she loves us and we love her just as much. So thanks to her, we're drinking glasses of Eva Luna 2021. It says, Eva Luna, the mysteries of the feminine element enclosed within the earth, the essence that gives rise to life, united to the moon, eternal muse, goddess of the heavens, a rich and harmonious wine, spherical like the stars from which it takes its name.
That's a really sensual wine.
Yeah,
that's also very much like Daughters of the Moon, kind of witchy, but feminine power, like with the tides and your menses. Like it's got all that good energy to it.
Feminine power.
I love that. The bottle is also really lovely.
Yeah, it's a dark, I think it's technically a green, but it's dark and then it's just blue and it's very like simple design. It's a very strong smelling wine, not in a bad way.
I also love Eva Luna. Great name.
Right.
Bring it back. But also, it sounds a little like Evil Luna. Like, we could really just go either way here.
Right.
Yeah. Just depending on our mood. Are you Eva Luna today or are you Evil Luna?
So here's to Sophia and the moon.
Sophia and the moon. Sophia, you are the moon. What is it? The moon and stars? No, it's sun and stars.
Sun and stars and moon of my life.
Moon of my life. That's right.
It's very like tart red.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely like a black red. Lots of tannins, which means the skin on them grapes was
I'm like, do I need to go get you your stir wine so you don't end up with a headache tomorrow?
No, it's good. I really
you
like
have
it.
yet to use that. I'm kidding.
I keep forgetting it's here. Honestly, we need to like put it on the tea table so I remember to actually use it.
I was trying to figure out like what kind of wine it actually is. Okay, so it's a Bordeaux red blend.
Oh,
from Italy.
Oh, so I did a wine tasting like class recently, and they were actually talking about, the different kinds of wines and flavors and notes and things like that. And one of the things I learned was Bordeaux, I think it's like on one side of the river, they grow one kind of wine, and on the other side, they grow the other. Or it's like, it's very different because on one side, it's gravel.
Yeah.
And so the water drains, and the other side, it's clay.
That's interesting.
So it's like you get more water, and like the soil really impacts the way that the wine tastes. So
yeah, that's actually really cool too, though.
It was really interesting to think more critically about what I was tasting when it came to wine, because I'm always just like,
chug it. No, I'm kidding.
Wine tastes good, me drink now.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't put a lot of thought into it. But it was really good. It was really interesting. I would definitely do a wine tasting again, because it's just one of those things you start to. It's like when you look at a piece of art and you're like, that's really pretty.
Yeah.
And obviously took a lot of work. But when you know the context behind the art, it means more. And it's just like the more you can appreciate the wine and know about its context, just kind of like the more you can get into it. This is my unsolicited advice to Sophia to go and take a wine tasting class, because why the fuck
Even
not?
if it's not like a class, just I've done multiple like wine tastings. Like I did one where I went with a friend and we did yoga in the vineyard, and then they had like a wine tasting after, and that was a lot of fun. But also just doing like going with your friends and doing like a wine flight.
Yes.
Like that's really fun too.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Kelley.
Emily.
Crap.
You go first.
And I know this to be true. I know you're not gaslighting me or tricking me.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm not actually gaslighting.
At first
you
I was
this
like,
time.
wait, do I? am like, nope, I definitely do, because I covered Danuta and her handbag of power and righteousness. So I want to give a special shout out to our favorite Scottish lass.
Ooh.
Hashtag not. Oh my God, what the hell was that voice?
I don't know. Not Scottish.
Hashtag not this Karen.
Yay,
For
Karen.
the recommendation. It's a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. But yeah, not this Karen. Dr. Not This Karen actually sent me this woman, and she's like, I don't know if there's enough information for you to cover her, but you might just be a cool shout out. And
You're like, I will find enough information.
I did some reading, and I'm like, oh, there be information.
Well, like, because like the last woman I covered, I'm like, there were literally like 2 articles on this woman. Like, we don't like. The whole point of our podcast is lesser known women. Like, we're used to working with not a lot of sources.
Yes.
But I love that you were thoughtful like that, Karen.
Yeah, Karen.
And this is why you're hashtag not all Karens, but you're our Karen.
Hashtag not this Karen,
Not this
but
Karen.
hashtag she's our Karen.
Yeah. I will fight you for this, Karen.
Hashtag I will kill for this, Karen.
Hell yeah.
So today I am whining about Dr. Jerri Nielsen FitzGerald and Operation Deep Freeze.
I like.
Ooh. This is a story I think I had vaguely heard of, or like heard of something like this happening.
Yeah.
But reading the actual story was cocoa bananas bonkers up the wall. So
I'm excited. I was going to say on a level of 1 to attain. Are
Okay.
we closer to attain?
no,
Okay.
because this is all very based in reality. No one is fucking
No one's
their
ever
own.
going to get close to attain.
No one is being their own grandpa
Attain.
in this story.
The level of weird that attain is
Can you-
unattainable.
God damn you. I love you so much. This
I
is
was like,
You've never been more beautiful to me than at this moment.
All right, tell me about the deep freeze.
So the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station in Antarctica or on Antarctica, however you want to, is an isolated research station at the South Pole.
Okay.
Originally built by Navy Seabees in 1956, the station houses anywhere between 50 and like 170 scientific researchers and support staff.
That's actually a lot.
Some of the most intelligent people from all over the world travel to the bottom of the earth to study glaciology, which is the study of glaciers, geophysics, meteorology, biomedicine, astrophysics, and a bunch of other sciences that I'll never understand.
Yay.
Over the years, the station has been rebuilt, expanded, and upgraded. It now includes a greenhouse, a gym, a climbing wall, movie lounge, library, sauna, music room, medical surgery, emergency power plant.
Okay, that makes sense.
And our favorite, a heavily stocked bar.
Hell yeah.
Drinking's
Sure,
a big deal here.
well, and I'm sure when you go down there, like, it's not just like, oh, I'm going for the week. Like, it's like, no, I'm going to be here for like 6 months.
So this all may sound very luxurious, but it's really to help keep everyone on the station as sane as possible. With near total darkness, unbearable weather, and near total isolation, even the brightest of minds struggle to keep their cool, especially during the interminable winter. Those who winter over, as it's called, are essentially stranded there for months at a time. And
yeah, because the ice floes become so impassable even by ships that literally you're just stuck there.
Well, and a lot of people get there by plane, but it's literally so cold that plane fuel will freeze and turn into jelly. And the plane, maybe the plane will be able to land. That thing's not going anywhere though.
Yeah.
It's really
intense.
It's a level of intense that I think is hard for us to comprehend. And there's been a lot of crazy drama that's gone down at this specific research station because people lose their fucking minds. Because imagine being isolated in this place with your favorite people in the world. At a certain point,
they're not going to be your favorite people.
They're going to get on your fucking nerves and you're going to lose your fucking mind. Now imagine that these are just randos that you're working with. These are your coworkers.
Right.
Oh my fucking God. It just takes one person reheating fish in the microwave and
all hell's breaking loose.
I'm going to start stabbing. I'm just going to fucking start stabbing. I'm done. So in 2018, there was actually an incident at the Bellinghausen station at the South Pole. So not the station we're talking about, but it's in the South Pole, very similar setup, where one staffer actually stabbed another in the chest for spoiling the endings of books he hadn't read.
Oh, so that's something I would stab over. So I get that.
They've got this library and these two guys are not getting along, and the one guy every time he picks up a book, the other guy who's read all the books in that library at this point.
Oh, did you know?
Yeah, and so it just got to the
that
point
is a
where
stabbing offense.
The one dude stabbed the other. Everyone survived, so we can kind of laugh about it, but that's intense. So the isolation is near total for station staff. Being smack dab at the bottom of the world doesn't allow for people to come and go easily. Supplies are delivered only during the warm season in late October or early November. And when I say warm season, I mean
it's relative.
It's very
relative.
The highest temperature that has ever been recorded was on Christmas Day of 2011. Do you have any guesses in Fahrenheit? Because that's just kind of where we live.
10 degrees.
9.9. Holy shit, Kelley. Did you do your homework?
Did you do my homework? Not, but I was just I feel like it can't be very high.
Yeah, which is negative 12.3 degrees Celsius.
That's insane.
The lowest temperature ever recorded was in June of 1982. Any guesses?
No, negative 47.
Negative 117 degrees Fahrenheit,
shit.
Which is negative 82.8 degrees Celsius. So that's kind of the range we're looking at. And because this is the bottom of the world, that's why like June is colder, October, November are warmer. Like it doesn't, like us being in the northern hemisphere, it sounds counterintuitive, but it's like upside down Christmas. You know, Australia has a hot Christmas. So
your hot Christmas.
I saw Emily having a hot Christmas, rolling down with Santa Claus like night. I don't know. So because of this isolation from outside resources, it's really important to have sufficient medical supplies and facilities at the station, including personnel. Doctors trained in a variety of different treatments, scenarios, procedures are stationed in Antarctica and may be required to have an appendectomy or wisdom tooth removal before arriving.
Holy shit.
Because they can't be doing that kind of crap down there, and they can't do it to themselves. Which, although someone has definitely given themselves an appendectomy.
100%.
Yeah, I don't think I included it in my notes because this isn't about that person, but a dude literally like cut out his own appendix. And that's when they started saying like people had to have appendectomies before going here.
Jeez.
So that's where Dr. Jerri Nielsen comes in. Born on March 1st in 1952 in Salem, Ohio, Jerri graduated pre-med from Ohio University before earning her medical degree from the Medical College of Ohio in Toledo. Here's the thing. I don't think about Ohio very much.
No.
But I love saying all of the names. Like Ohio, Toledo, Cincinnati. Like I love all the names. So working in a variety of medical fields and as an ER surgeon, Jerri had vast knowledge of medicine and could take control in an emergency. So during pre-med, Jerri met her husband, Jay Nielsen, with whom she had 3 children, but the couple divorced in 1998. So exhausted from a bitter divorce and long hours working in a New York ER, which I'm like, working in an ER is a nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
A New York ER? Holy shit.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Like, no thanks.
So Jerri spied a want ad in a medical journal seeking a doctor to serve at the Amundsen Scott Research Station in the South Pole. And the opportunity offered the change and escape that Jerri desperately needed at this time. She's like, I just went through this really ugly divorce. I'm exhausted. I'm working long hours at this ER. I'm just like, she's done. So after being thoroughly vetted for her abilities, mental health, and physical health, Dr. Jerri was cleared and arrived at the Amundsen Scott Research Station in early 1999. And this meant that Jerri would be part of the 41-member Winter Over crew who would endure 6 months of darkness and near total isolation from the outside world.
God, I just cannot imagine that.
And like, this may not even sound like that many people, because like I was describing the research, but like it can hold up to like 170 people. But for the Winter Over crew,
it's pretty small.
It's big. It's actually a lot bigger. The Winter Over crew normally consisted of like 27 people, but they were doing construction on the station to like make improvements. So this also included a construction crew who had been working on replacing the station's dome. So they had a lot more people than normal, which I'm like, can you imagine like getting a construction job for this? Like, just
like what would the like in like details of that include when they're trying to find people?
I just don't understand logistically how you build anything.
Yeah.
And this is not the only research station in the South Pole. So it's obviously been done multiple times, and it was first done in the 1950s, but I'm still like, but how? Like, how do you get material to withstand that kind of insane climate?
Yeah.
Anyway, this is why I'm not in construction. I'm not doing construction in the South Pole. At 47 years old, Jerri had seen a lot in her medical career and was prepared for the unique challenge of practicing medicine on the bottom of the world. But nothing could prepare her for this. In May of 1999, Jerri found a lump in her right breast.
Oh my gosh.
As a doctor and a woman.
I would just and you're stuck there.
Yep.
Oh my God.
She knew exactly what this could mean. This is also everyone's reminder to just check your tits.
Yeah.
Men, women, and
everyone,
babies.
yeah.
Just everyone's got to be checking their shit. And you need to do it regularly, not just to see if you find something, but to know what your, breasts feel like normally. So you know when there's something weird. She knew what it could be, but she also knew that there were plenty of explanations for a lump in breast tissue. And the only way to be sure was to biopsy the tissue. But Jerri couldn't just go to the doctor's office for an appointment. She was the only doctor in the entire station, perhaps on the entire continent.
Jeez, yeah.
Now, this is the part where I would try to rationalize where I was what I was experiencing and ignore the problem and just be like, nope, it's fine. It's not that. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to think about it, and I will deal with it when I get back to civilization, and we're just never going to think about this ever again. Not Dr. Jerri, because she does not fuck around. Jerri performed her own biopsy.
Holy shit.
With the help of the non-medical crew. She trained a welder who practiced poking a needle into a shriveled apple, and a maintenance worker prepared the biopsy slides. Over email and video transmission, which a computer technician synced with a passing satellite, Jerri was able to connect with Dr. Kathy Miller, an oncologist in Indianapolis. Because this also isn't this is 1999. Oh. This isn't just get on Snapchat and start taking pics or, doing insane. A video chat.
I know, but still,
and
that's
the fact
insane.
They're having to sync it with a passing satellite. They have to know when the satellite's
exactly. And they probably are okay, we have this limited time when the satellite is in range to be able to actually do this.
This makes me think of the Wild West, where it's she's sending her biopsy results by pony mail, right? And then getting a letter back, or it's insane. So through all of this effort, they were able to determine it was breast cancer, which
oh, yeah. That's hard enough news to get when you're surrounded by loved ones in your own home.
Yeah.
Let alone via a satellite call when you're literally at the bottom of the world with coworkers.
And this is so close to just being a wild anecdote.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that time I thought I had. No, it's that time I did get breast cancer at the bottom of the world.
Right.
Even with a full team of trained oncologists, treatment wouldn't be possible without chemotherapy. So even if there was a full-on cancer genius team down there, they didn't have the supplies, they didn't have the medicine, they didn't have any of any ways to treat her. But in the dead of winter, there was no way for Dr. Jerri to escape the research station.
Yeah, she was stuck.
That was seeming more and more like a coffin. But if anyone can figure out how to get cancer treatment supplies to a remote station on the bottom of the world, it's science nerds.
Also, it's going to be this person who's clearly reliable and resourceful, training these other people to what to do to give her a biopsy. If anyone can do it, it's going to be these people.
It seriously, it blows my mind. There was also someone was practicing on a chicken breast, sewing or stitching her back. They practiced on food, and then she's okay,
we're good.
Here's my body. Cut into me now.
Yeah.
So the National Science Foundation arranged for an airdrop of supplies and medication using a military plane. The plane basically had to buzz over the station and drop the supplies, because if the plane had attempted to land, it would have frozen to the ice.
And wouldn't have been able to take back off. Okay.
And the hydraulic and fuel lines would have frozen.
Jesus Christ.
Even without landing, the plane risked freezing up, making the airdrop a risky endeavor. This is not something that they would ever do under any other circumstance. And it was very possible that plane was going to freeze and drop out of the sky.
Oh my God.
Fortunately, that's not what happened. Station staff lit fires in barrels around the station to help guide the plane to the drop zone in the impenetrable darkness. Using the first set of supplies, Dr. Jerri, who had trained a small team of colleagues at the station to help, performed a new biopsy. The new equipment allowed for better scans to be sent back to the United States, and this further confirmed the diagnosis of breast cancer. So the initial scans and biopsies, they were like, we're pretty sure this is breast cancer and we need to start figuring it out.
Oh my
and now
God.
they're able to be like, yup, it's definitely breast cancer. So with her battlefield promotion team, Jerri began self-administrating hormone and chemotherapy treatments, which chemo is no joke.
No.
It
That's
is
insane.
You're poisoning yourself and killing parts of your body in an attempt to kill the part that's killing you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Further airdrops provided enough supplies for Jerri to treat herself until October. Remember, she first found the lump in May.
Holy shit. I can't Jesus Christ.
Signs of Antarctic spring finally showed themselves, with the temperature jumping from a bitter negative 188 to a balmy negative 60. That month, an LC-130 Hercules equipped with skis was sent to the station. This was weeks ahead of when a plane would typically be sent to the station,
Right.
but because
she was there and they were like, okay, let's try to get her out.
Yeah, they needed to get Jerri out of the South Pole as soon as possible, and the weather was unseasonably warm. Again, finger quotes, warm.
Right. It
so
was
they're
kind of like,
we gotta go for it.
We have this window, let's take it.
Now, a lot could have gone wrong with this early flight, including
the weather could have just turned.
The fuel and hydraulic lines could have frozen. The fuel itself could have frozen into jelly, which I'm like, how does jet fuel freeze? Because it's this fucking cold. The plane could have frozen to the ice and been unable to take off after landing. And the plane could have crashed even before landing due to frigid conditions. And you're right, the weather could have just turned to absolute shit. There are a million things that could have gone wrong.
Right.
And they needed everything to go perfectly.
Yeah.
And thankfully, none of these horrible things
Oh
happened.
God, I thought you were gonna be like, and then she died. And I was
And
like,
then
God
she
damn it,
died.
Emily. Now I know how you. Now I know how it made you feel.
And the LC-130 took off with Jerri on board on October 15th. It was like they landed and had her up in the air in 30 minutes. They were like, go, go,
it's
go,
kinda
go.
Like when you see emergency helicopters, that's exactly what it is. It's people get on and they're gone.
But this harrowing rescue was just the beginning of Jerri's cancer journey. Once back in the United States, Jerri had to undergo multiple surgeries, a mastectomy, and the complications that came with such serious treatment. Because remember, now she's back in the United States.
She's getting the full treatment.
But she's just able to get the full treatment. She still has the cancer.
Exactly. It didn't just go, it didn't freeze like everything else could have.
But the grueling treatment seemed worth it when her cancer went into remission.
Aww.
Jerri's incredible story of treating herself for cancer at the bottom of the world was front page news across the globe.
I mean, it's insane.
Dr. Jerri began touring the world as a motivational speaker and wrote a memoir about her experience titled Icebound, A Doctor's Incredible Battle for Survival at the South Pole. I think I forgot to put this in my notes because it's why I titled the episode, but the Operation Deep Freeze or whatever, that's what they call it, the operation to get her the supplies
That's
and then
so
get her
cool.
out of there. Her story inspired the TV movie by the same name, with Jerri being played by Susan Sarandon. Hot. Should we all be so lucky? In 2001, she married Tom FitzGerald, and the two had met and become friends back in 1986 while touring the Amazon. So I'm like,
damn.
Jerri definitely has a taste for adventure.
All over. Yeah.
Jerri's got a taste for adventure. And I'm like, I feel like you don't sign up to be a doctor in the South Pole unless you've got a little bit of that maverick in you.
I feel like you need to have just at least a little bit of thrill seeking.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's going to suck.
Because when I read that she did a tour, I was like, what who is Jerri? I'm like,
the Amazon.
that actually makes perfect sense for everything else we know about her. I have a lot of questions about this. I found nothing. It's really not the most important part of her story, but I'm like, I want to see her slides from her trip to the Amazon. So throughout her career as a motivational speaker, Jerri traveled to China, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Turkey, Poland, Ireland, South Africa, Australia, and even returned to Antarctica several times, which I'd be like, no, been there, done that, never doing it again. Her husband, Tom, said that Jerri had never lost the quote unquote adventure bug that had led her to the South Pole in the first place, which I'm like, she definitely does have an adventure bug. Like, again, you don't sign up for that if you're not like a little bit of a maverick, if you don't have the adventure bug.
Yeah. That's insane. Like, not only did she like do the thing to start with, which means she was one of the top minds in her field, but then to treat herself for cancer while she's down there doing the thing.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Then the cancer returned.
Yeah, I figured that was coming.
In 2005, the cancer had metastasized to her brain, liver, and bones. And despite this devastating turn, Dr. Jerri continued traveling and giving speeches. In 2008, she announced that she had a brain tumor, but even this couldn't slow her down. She continued working until March of 2009. 3 months later, on June 23rd, 2009, she passed away in her home at 57 years old. Jerri's story is still remembered for her incredible bravery, ingenuity, her sense of adventure. You know, her story lives on through her memoir, which I did not read. I never read books for this because then I would just be like, okay, this is the podcast where I just read you the book now.
Yep.
And really, I mean, the story of her, she's treating her own cancer with what she has, with where she is, and that endurance, that there's another word I'm trying to think of. Not resourcefulness, but just that like ingenuity and the bravery to confront. Because I here's how my story would have gone in this. I would have found the lump and been like, that's not what it is. And then just like never thought about it again until it killed me.
Yeah.
Like avoidance is my coping mechanism. She was like, I'm not going to let this thing take me without a fight. And she fought. And I think, like, I know it came back, but she won.
Which is insane.
I think, like, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, that is the story of Dr. Jerri Lynn Nielsen FitzGerald and Operation Deep Freeze.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, the ending was kind of, I would have done the ending differently if, you know, it wasn't based on real events.
If we could rewrite the universe.
Because I'm glad I went into remission the first time, because honestly, I would be pissed.
Yeah.
If it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was treating my cancer in a sub-zero hellhole for months by myself, only for it to get me when I got back to civilization.
Right.
Like, no, like I that's one of the sinister things about cancer, is that it can come back after you beat it. And that's like, I had some friends who I swam with, and their father, he had cancer, he beat it. It came back, and it killed him, and it felt like so unfair. It's like, no, you already beat it. You're done.
It's so weird too, because like depending on the type of cancer, like they give you time frames of like, okay, if it doesn't come back within this amount of time, like you're probably not getting it, you know. But then other ones are like, yep, we can't give you that time frame because it doesn't matter.
I think there are some where it's like 10 years. You have to be like 10 years cancer free to be officially considered cancer free.
Like the more aggressive the cancer is, the shorter that window is.
Yeah. Well, and
but like breast cancer is something that I don't think they give you a time frame, because they're just like, well, now that you've had it, you kind of just have the genes that you might get it again.
And breast cancer is like, here's the thing, anyone can get breast cancer. This is not a male versus female condition. Women are definitely educated more on breast cancer, and we're made to be more aware of it and afraid of it.
But it just goes to show, like, even getting a mastectomy isn't like 100% cure. Yeah. You can still get it. It can still come back.
But I remember my mom, she got a, oh my God, mammogram, which like those are awful awful experiences. Everyone needs to get them, and you should. Like, don't be afraid, but they suck. And she got a call from her doctor, and she's like, yeah, it was a little weird. We just want to like double check it. And I think my mom had to wait a week to like go back in. And she was an absolute mess. Because it's like, okay, they're either going to tell me I do or don't have cancer now. Like this is, and it was, she didn't have cancer, but now every time she has to go in for a mammogram, she's way up there.
Oh, yeah.
Because she spent a week thinking, what the hell am I going to do if I have breast cancer? Like facing that possibility.
That's insane.
And it has never left her. And she didn't even have it. That was just the fear of having it. But yeah, it's an incredible story. Karen, thank you so much for this recommendation. It was wild and also a nightmare.
Yeah, that's Jesus. I can't imagine doing most of those things, let alone doing them and then having all that extra stuff happen.
When I had a blood clot, I had to get on heparin shots, before I was able to take blood thinners orally. And they gave them to me. I had to take them twice. I had to get these shots twice a day in my stomach. They started me off in the hospital, but then when I went home, my mom had to give them to me because I was 16 and they were big needles.
Yep.
And I'm like, my body is not going to let me stab myself in the stomach with this needle. The first time my mom gave me the shot did not go super great. There's a reason.
Kick her or something?
No, it was, my mom was freaking out and I was freaking out. She only stuck the needle in halfway and the heparin was like coming up around the needle. I'm like, Mom, you have to stick it in more. And she's like, what? I'm like, Mom, you have to stick it in more. And she's like, why? We're both just going like, like screaming at each other. Like by the end of it, she was a total pro. But I'm like, that was giving a shot. I couldn't do that to myself, let alone, here, let me train another person how to like give me a breast tissue biopsy. They've practiced on a chicken breast and an apple. It's gonna be
I'm
fine.
okay with this.
My mom was giving me a shot. And it was not a big deal. She just had to stick the needle in and push the plunger down. It was not complicated. And that was a full-on disaster. Jeez, I cannot imagine. And then like treating yourself, it's wild.
Nope. And then just like the trust of like, yep, you're good. It's good enough. You've practiced enough on chickens and apples. It's good enough. God, I don't even think I could be that reliable I need more wine.
Cross-stitching after like,
I would not have been one of the people she asked.
No. It's like, I know these are really intelligent people, but there's being like a doctor in astrophysics and then being a doctor in cutting human beings open.
Right.
Like, what the? And it wasn't even the astrophysicist or meteorologist that were doing it. Was the welder and the mechanic.
Well, so it's like, I think I get the welder at least. Yeah. Because like when you're welding, you also like, especially if you want things to look nice, like you have to have a really steady hand. And so like that's going to be beneficial in sewing you up and stuff. But yeah, like that's not who you would expect her to ask.
I hope that welder went to their next like career day
and was like,
and we're
I
just
would like
to
be a surgeon now.
No, I hope they like went to their kids' career day and it was like, so let me tell y'all about welding, and they just tell this story and then all the kids are like, wow, I didn't know welding like took so much in the South Pole and had so many medical applications.
Right? Yeah. Jeez, that's crazy.
So Kelley, my darling, who are you whining about?
I'm whining about my story is exciting, but in a very different way.
Okay.
I am whining about Vera Rubin.
Ooh, sounds like a great sandwich.
It does.
Or it sounds like a fashion brand, like Vera Bradley, Vera Rubin.
Vera Rubin.
I could see that.
It's not.
That's going to be our luxury sandwich chain.
Yes, Vera Rubin.
Vera Rubin.
Slip into a nice sandwich.
Slip into a nice sandwich and then slip that nice sandwich into you.
Ooh, I like that.
Feels so good with your lips wrapped around it. God, I really want a big fucking sandwich now.
You're the one that said you weren't hungry.
I know. I'm not hungry. I just like want a
sandwich. Yeah.
I just kind of want to deep throat a sandwich right now. I just want to see how far I can get.
So Vera Florence Cooper, as she was born on July 23rd, 1928. This might be the most recent woman I've done in a very long time.
I think so, which is Because it's less than 100 years ago. Fewer than 100 years ago. Not
Just
by much.
barely.
Not by much.
Skirting in there. She was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to Jewish parents, Philip Cooper, who was an electrical engineer at Bell Telephone Company. And her mother was Rose Cooper, who also worked at Bell Telephone Company, where they met until they married.
I bet they were the Jim and Pam of the
Oh,
office.
100%.
It was just, instead of Scranton, Pennsylvania, it's just Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's like all the cell phone footage of just like, and then it's like him and her just like looking at each other, like doing
telephone company
shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he's on the phone selling phones and she's answering the phone
he's
about
an engineer,
phones.
so he was maybe looking at paperwork.
He's building phones and
there you
she's
go.
doing something with phones. And they have this like cute
Very
will they won't
secretary,
they.
yeah.
She's been engaged to the guy who works like in the warehouse downstairs for way too fucking long.
Yeah.
He's got this boyish charm. Okay. Let me just recount The Office starting with episode 1.
Yeah. And then we'll just pretend they're Vera's parents. But yeah, so Rose stopped working at Bell when they got married. They ended up having, Vera was their second child. They would end up having 3. And when Vera was 10, they would move to Washington, D.C. And here, Vera would develop an interest in astronomy while watching the stars from her window.
Are we doing an astronomical?
Yes, we are.
Oh my God, it's been so long.
I know.
Because this is your jam. This is your
If
OG
I hadn't been like a
jam.
psychologist, I probably would have been in astronomy.
Yes.
My computer does your computer's thing where it like keeps restarting itself. It's really annoying.
That's
Anyways,
gross.
so this, a quote from her in a later, like obviously later in life was, quote, "Even then I was more interested in the question than the answer. And I decided at an early age that we inhabit a very curious world." That's what she said about like being interested in astronomy. And throughout her early educational journey, her parents would foster her love of science. In fact, her father assisted her in building a cardboard telescope so that she could photograph the motion of the stars. And her mom persuaded their local librarian to allow her to check out adult science books. And so with these basic instruments, she would begin to observe and track meteors and just like different things in the night sky.
They are such good parents. Also, my parents had to convince the librarian to let me check out Holocaust books. They're having to convince her librarian to let her check out like adult science books,
yeah.
which is insane.
Yeah, they're very different topics.
Good God. I bet they're like, I just want to make sure she doesn't get like crayons and peanut butter jelly sandwich all over these super fancy books.
Exactly. So she would graduate high school, no problem, in 1944. And she would be inspired to pursue an undergraduate education by Maria Mitchell, who was the first American to discover a meteor, who taught at Vassar College way before like Vera could have ever gone there. But that's who she was inspired by. So she applied to Vassar College, which at the time was an all-women's school. So she got in.
I think is that one of the Seven Sisters?
I don't know.
It's like,
I think so, but it's in that
vein.
region. I mean, I know it's not an all-women's college anymore, but at the time it was.
Yep.
So yeah, like she like had this person that was like, okay, clearly they must have a good program if she taught there. So she went, and so before she, like, as she was leaving high school, she actually went and told her high school physics teacher that like, hey, I'm going to go and attend Vassar. And he told her, quote, "As long as you stay away from science, you should do okay." Had nothing to do with like her intelligence, just science was a male-dominated field, and so it's like you're not going to get very far. She would very promptly ignore that advice.
This is her physics teacher.
Yep.
And he has
her
been
high school
teaching,
physics teacher. Yep.
Like, dude,
Yep.
like, can you? I can't imagine being a teacher and being that much of an asshole to students.
This is Bessie Coleman's brother being like, you can't fly an airplane. And she's like, bitch, watch me.
Okay. Here's my headcanon, because I'm so sick of like teachers like telling women they can't do things.
Right.
This is my headcanon. He's teaching her. He's like, she's got so much potential, but she really needs like a fire
push,
lit under her. And so this was kind of that.
He's like, I'm going to be that asshole, but I'm going to do it because I know it will light that fire.
It's like
we can headcanon that.
Get out of here. Don't you see I don't want you no more?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
like, it's like breaking his heart to say those things.
He's like, oh God, you're so smart.
You're going to be so great, but I have to like push
Give you that
you. I have to
push,
push
yeah.
you out of the nest.
Yep.
And I need my doubt in you to fuel your career.
Yep. So she would get accepted and attend Vassar, and on summer breaks, she would work at the Naval Research Laboratory and the U.S. Naval Observatory, and she would meet Cornell physics student Bob Ruben, or Robert Ruben is his full name.
Robby Ruben.
Robby Ruben.
That's okay. If I ever have a fake boyfriend, his name's gonna be Robby Ruben.
RR.
That's amazing.
And the pair would marry in fall of actually the same year. They basically whirlwind romance, but actually he's a really good guy.
Okay.
Robbie's good. Robbie's
king.
good.
Robby Ruben, king. Sandwich king.
Sandwich king. There you go. We'll have a sandwich named the Robby.
He's a sandwich that you're not going to regret deep throating.
There you go.
Dripping and dressing.
So she would graduate Phi Beta Kappa and earn her bachelor's degree in 1948. The only graduate in astronomy in her year. So she was like the only astronomy student for her year, which is very, very interesting.
You know, it's hard to find a class size that small.
Yeah, God, I can't even imagine.
Can you imagine the teachers showing up and then just being like,
it's like one student.
Oh, wow, no one showed up. I guess I don't have to. Oh, crap. She's just like sitting in the far back or something.
Hi, professor.
Like, I'm here. I don't like sitting in the front, though. And he's like, don't make me shout this entire fucking lesson.
Right. So she would apply for graduate school in Princeton, but she was denied for being a woman. Princeton wouldn't open to women for another, I think it was like 27 years. We've talked about that a lot. So we're just going to gloss over that. Princeton, you were a bunch of assholes. So Robby was in the Navy's V-12 program. Remember, he was a Cornell student. And so due to his like the V-12 program basically stationed people in the Navy at different universities to learn useful skills. And so he was at Cornell doing that. And so Vera was like, oh, well, why don't I just apply to Cornell? Like, you're already there. That way, like, we can like be together, like more together kind of a thing.
Intellectual power couple.
Right. And so she did. She was able to get into Cornell and it was great. And she actually spoke very highly of her experience at Cornell, saying Cornell was a very exciting place because of the physics. Like, she didn't have anything to say about the school itself, but she was like, their physics program.
But at every opportunity she brought up, well, I went to Cornell.
Exactly.
A la the Nard Dog. This is The Office.
Yeah, there you go.
Is this an alternate universe of The Office?
So in 1951, she would earn her master's degree at Cornell and her husband would receive his PhD. And following graduation, Robby was hired for the National Bureau of Standards and the pair would move to Washington, D.C. together, where Vera would embark on her own fruitful, though incredibly challenging career. Because she's a woman in a science in the 1950s.
See, I was like, yeah, because physics be hard.
Yeah.
I mean, also physics is insane. It's like the LSD of the sciences.
Yeah. So by the time the Rubens would move to Washington, they had one child and another on the way. So Vera was pregnant with her second child by the time they moved. She would take a very brief time off to care for her firstborn son, David, but remained very invested in science. She actually wrote in a reflection, quote, I would push David to the playground, sit him in the sandbox, and read the astrophysical journal. So like she's keeping up on like what's going on in the science she loves. And with continued support both from her husband and her parents, she would actually go back to school for a PhD program. She was accepted into the Georgetown University Astronomy PhD program, which was one of the only programs not to accept women, but to offer night school. So she's like, okay, cool. Like I can take care of my kid. I can like kind of do the domestic stuff and I can go to school and get my PhD.
I also love her husband and parents are so supportive.
Yep.
And I think she would have gone for this regardless. It just seems so inherent in her. But imagine if she had less supportive people in her life.
Right.
How like the story could have been very, very different.
Right. I know. And that's why I was like, Robby's a real one.
Robby Ruben for the win.
And yeah, so this night school best suited her schedule. And for the next 2 years, yeah, Robby and her parents would support her quite often as she would conduct research and stuff like that. And so during this time, like as she was in her graduate studies, she was 23 years old and pregnant. Remember, she's pregnant with her second child as she begins her doctoral studies.
Also, I'm so sorry. I know it's a different time, but 23 years old and you have your second kid.
Yep.
I'm like, that's so much.
No, thank you.
I can't imagine being 33 and having a second
I know.
child.
I'm like, exactly. Like the age we are, I'm like, I'm glad I like, but that's also us. Like we don't want to have kids.
It's very much exactly.
Yeah.
Like we know people who have wanted to be mothers for a very long time. Like I worked with a woman. Now she's the mother to like at least two really beautiful children. I can't remember if she has a third, but she got married and was immediately like, I needed to get pregnant like yesterday.
How old my sister would have been when she had her oldest.
But she was having a hard time getting pregnant, and I remember she was working in the baby room at the daycare, and I was working in the room with her, and she came back from her break and she just seemed really off.
Yeah, and you're like, what's wrong?
Yeah, and she's like, well, I just basically had a mental breakdown in the Target baby section on my lunch break because she went to like Target, walked around the baby, and was just like, I want this so bad.
Yeah,
and she's working with babies every day too. So I'm just like,
insane.
I'm like, I will never relate to this, but that doesn't mean I don't like feel your pain, because people who want to have kids and can't, like there's a part of my heart that really like hurts. Even though I'm like very much, I don't want to have kids. Like that hurts.
You can empathize. Exactly. You're like, oh my gosh.
Well, because it's such a deep and intimate want to or to not have kids.
Exactly.
You know? Good for her, though.
But yeah, she's doing her thing. Like, she's like, I want to have kids and I want to study the stars.
If I was pregnant, I'd just be like, this is my excuse to never do anything again.
Exactly.
She's like, I'm going back to school while raising my other child and being a wife and mother. And
so during her graduate studies, she would study the motions of 109 galaxies and made one of the first observations of deviations from Hubble flow, which is how the galaxies move apart from one another. She would work with astronomer Martha Carpenter on galactic dynamics and study under a whole bunch of names that were like really famous in the field at that time, all men, of course. The conclusion she came to was that there was an orbital motion of galaxies around a pole, which was disproven, and the idea that galaxies were moving held true, and sparked farther research. So like her bigger theory was disproven, but like the idea, or no, her smaller theory was disproven, but like she was like, okay, they are moving around something, and like, you know, and so her research provided early evidence of the supergalactic plane, so like this plane that everything is on, and the information and the data she discovered was immensely controversial, and that's something we'll see throughout Vera's career. And she struggled to be allowed to actually present her work at the American Astronomical Society.
Astronomical, say it correctly, Kelley.
As she was visibly pregnant at the time and not a member of the society, and a woman, like, so they were like, but she did eventually get to present it, and the talk received, like, she recalled it being like, it was super negative, everybody didn't like it, and so she never published her paper. However, good things did come of this talk. It garnered the attention of a theoretical physicist and cosmologist named George Gamow, and he researched, his research is considered like foundational in the world of physics. Specifically, he worked on developing the Big Bang Theory. So like, he's super well known.
Wait, did he come up with Sheldon?
Yes.
Like, I'm sorry. That show has broken me so much. You said developing the Big Bang Theory. My first thought, the first second of that was, wait, he like consulted on, no. The theory that the show is named after. It's like when you said you had boxers over today. There was a whole second where my world was completely rocked because you're like, oh, you know, like, good to record the podcast, just so you know, the boxers are over. I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now?
What is Kelley doing?
Dogs.
The
You're
dogs.
watching
The
dogs who are boxers.
Yes. That's funny though.
I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Our podcast got way more aggressive.
What can I say? But yeah, so like, he's a big name, and he reached out to her and was like, oh, let me ask you all these questions and da-da-da-da. And one that like stuck with her was, he asked her, is there a scale length in the distribution of galaxies? So like, is there any like commonalities? And she was like, I'm going to research that because she's like, I don't have an answer. And so she actually decided to make that her doctorate thesis, and he became her thesis advisor because she's like, hey, you inspired this. Like, do you want to like work with me? And so, yeah, that ended up being her thesis, and she would go on to receive her PhD and complete her thesis on the nature of extragalactic universe. So just different galaxies, basically.
Okay. Thank you for dumbing it down for me because
Yeah.
I need that.
Her work was published the same year in the Astrophysical Journal, and her dissertation concluded that galaxies clumped together rather than being randomly distributed throughout the universe, which was a very controversial idea at the time, but it is true. Now we know that.
We know she was right.
But like more research into that didn't happen for another 2 decades. And yeah, like throughout her graduate studies, as we saw, like with her talk, she encountered a lot of sexism, including one incident where like one of the first times she went to meet with George Gamow, she wasn't allowed to. And he actually had to come down to the lobby to talk with her because women weren't allowed in that area of the university because it was like a Catholic university. And they were like, well, no, like that's where like all the men are. You can't go up there alone.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Fucking Christ. Also, like, okay, why can't she go up there alone with all these men? Is it because she's not safe? Oh, she's not safe around all these men. Maybe we really need to think about that.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's really fun. Like, the gender and sex segregation in so many of these stories, it just, because it all comes down to like, it doesn't make any sense, or it's like, well, it's for women's protection. And it's like,
maybe you need to talk to the men and figure that shit out.
Okay, well then maybe the men should be kept out of spaces where women are, because obviously they're the problem. And I'm not saying they are, but that like that idea that like, well, women aren't safe around men.
It's like the dress code for women in schools.
Yes.
You know, it's like, well, if men can't control themselves, that sounds like a problem we should be addressing with the men, not making the women cover up more because men can't control themselves.
Well, and like President Dipshit, when talking about sexual assault in the U.S. military, he's like, well, what'd you expect when you throw women in with men? It's like,
men not to be rapists?
I'm like, so you're saying the default is that men are all rapists?
Yes.
Like that's
of course
what
he
you're
believes
saying.
that because he is.
Well, he definitely is, but hashtag not all men. Like you cannot have it both ways.
I know.
Sorry.
Anyways, so she would give birth to her second child, and then she would actually get pregnant and have give birth to a third child. They would have 3 kids all together, but she would struggle after the birth of her third child. She was tasked with staying home for a little while. I think kind of like bed rest, kind of like, hey, you had 3 kids, like take a little time.
It's incredibly traumatic for your body.
But also like she was struggling with the fact that her reality was so much different than the one that she had envisioned. She had envisioned herself conducting research and all of this stuff. And, you know, she was stuck at home, and she reflected later in life on this period stating, quote, I realized that as much as we both adored this child and our other children, there was nothing in my background that had led me to expect that my husband would go off to work each day doing what he loved and I would stay home. And I found it very, very hard. And again, like he wasn't making her stay home. It was just like their situation at the time, and yeah, the fact that her body needed rest and stuff. Yeah, this wasn't like the situation we've seen where other women, where it's like the husband is like, no, you have to stay home. It's like, no, like in this case, she just ended up doing it.
A really honest and raw look at the differences between, you know, people who can have children and people who don't, especially in like heteronormative relationships. Yeah. The husband, like this isn't a sexist thing where he's like, you're not allowed to work.
Right.
It's that he is never going to be in that situation because he physically cannot get pregnant.
Exactly.
He is never going to be in the situation where he has to put his career and ambitions on hold to take care of children while she's pursuing her career.
And I mean, he didn't have to put her stuff on hold, but he did have that like, he probably had more experience than a lot of men, especially at this time, though, of taking care of the kid when she was at night school.
Yeah, but like still, it's the way society was and still is set up. You know, like we're still fighting for maternity leave. don't even get me started about paternity leave. And I'm not even saying that he's like, well, he gets to go to work. It's he has to because there's no other option.
Exactly.
And again, because he cannot get pregnant, he's never going to have to face that part of the situation.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think that's a really, I like the honesty that's coming from her in that moment, because again, it's not, he's bad, pregnancy. It's not like this is good or bad. It's just, this is the way it is. And it's hard.
And even for her to think about like, it has nothing to do with the kid. Like we both love this kid. We both wanted this kid. It just facing that reality of what it means to have those kids and to be home with them. And watch your husband go off and do work that he loves is just a lot harder than she maybe thought it would be.
Yeah. And I like that because a lot of things can be true at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, being a parent can be the best thing in your life that you've ever done. And it can also be kind of a fucking nightmare.
Right. Like sometimes you do need to
Both
hide from your kids in the bathroom. That's okay.
Both of those things can be true at the exact same time.
Yeah. But Robby, being the king that he absolutely was, encouraged her again to return to school or work or whatever she wanted to do. And in 1955, that's exactly what she did. Vera would be hired by Georgetown University as both a researcher and a teacher, and she would work there for the next decade. And throughout the next decade, she would hold like various positions. She would be an instructor of mathematics and physics. She would be an associate research astronomer and lecturer, and then eventually an assistant professor of astronomy.
That is amazing. Especially considering this is during a time where she, because of her sex, is literally not allowed to even attend class at certain places.
Yeah. So while she was still a professor, she actually got invited by astronomer Alan Sandage to conduct observation at the Palomar Observatory in San Diego, California. Here's the interesting thing about Alan, and I think Alan's a real one too, and I say that because this observatory prohibited women from using their telescope.
Is it because the telescope was too phallic?
I don't know.
What the hell is gendered about a telescope other than it looks like a collapsible penis?
But so I love that Alan like reached out and was like, "Hey, you want to I don't know if she was allowed to use it, but he was like, do you want to at least like come and like tour our facility and see everything? Because I'm sure that didn't happen very often."
This is the one time where a dude reaches out to you and is like, you want to see a telescope?
Like,
and he's like actually talking about a telescope.
Right. But so obviously like Vera was like, yes, like, yeah, I want to come see it, you know? And so she was given a tour of the facility. And the more the longer the tour went on, the more Vera realized that like how unwelcome women were. So this reminds me of, oh my God, why can't I think of her name now?
There's so many. Literally name a woman we've covered.
Like, it was the computer in a skirt, and she worked on...
Katherine Johnson?
Yes.
Yes.
So there's a movie about her.
Yep.
And remember, she was like one of the only women. There was no women's bathrooms and stuff like that. And so it's very...
So she had to like walk to a different building.
It's very that. So she toured the facility, and it became clear to her, like to Vera, that like, yeah, women weren't welcome. When she observed that the only bathroom in the entire premises was designated for men only. And so Vera, being the real one, and I would like to think inspired by Catherine, drew a picture of a woman in like a stick figure in a skirt and stuck it on the door.
Okay, I'm sorry. If women are not allowed in this facility, why do they have to designate it as a men's only restroom?
Like, why does it matter?
Also, I have definitely used the men's restroom at like bars and restaurants if it's like a single stall situation.
In like a gas station once or twice in my life too, but they're disgusting.
Well, like so the situation I'm thinking about is like there's a single room women's restroom, single room men's restroom. The women's one is full, the men's one's empty. It's literally the same fucking room.
Exactly.
Why am I not going to use like fucking
I've done that before too.
But also, again, the bathroom thing has... I'm frustrated with this whole bathroom discourse that's going on because I'm like, okay, this wasn't a problem. It didn't have to be a problem. And it's been made into a problem. Like, you have manufactured a problem.
Oh, yeah. It's bullshit.
Like, if a dude wants to come into a women's bathroom and assault them, they're gonna do it. And you know what?
It doesn't
they
matter.
fucking have. Like, keeping trans people out of bathrooms. Also, any dude who's in a bathroom when a fully done up drag queen goes in and uses it, like, oh, are you feeling comfortable now? Because they're using the appropriate, like, fuck.
Yeah, my favorite, I don't TikTok often, but my favorite TikToks are the ones that of people that have fully transitioned. Like, I've seen some like that they're like they're more feminine, they look more feminine than I do. And they're like, do you really want me going into a men's bathroom?
I've seen that too. I think it was Jinx.
Because it's true.
Yes. I think it was Jinx Monsoon. She's a really famous drag queen. She's absolutely fantastic. She was talking about an experience where she went and used a men's public bathroom while she was in drag, and people were freaking out. And she's like, yeah, the weird thing is I was doing exactly what they like really wanted me to do.
Like, hey, I'm a born male.
I identify as a male. Like, I'm in drag right now, but like, I have a dick, which is apparently a really big deal to y'all for using this fucking bathroom.
It is. It's one of those issues that it's like, people like say they want one thing, but then when it happens, they're like, oh.
Well, because it's not about the actual thing. It's about victimizing people and giving yourself permission to victimize someone if they're not fitting into those narrow boxes of what men and women are allegedly supposed to look like. Well, now you can harass the crap out of them.
Exactly. So even though she had this like act of defiance in the moment, by this point, now, Dr. Ruben, she was kind of getting adverse to controversy and the sharp elbows of what she would call the senior astronomers, like the boys' club. And she was looking for a field of research that would kind of keep her out of trouble, keep her out of controversy. And she actually said, quote, I wanted a problem that no one would bother me about. She's like, I still want to do astronomy, but yeah, I don't want to like be this big controversial topic where everyone's going to like put me down or ask me questions or whatever. Which I love. She's like, just let me fucking do my research and leave me alone.
Again, it's like there's this idea, well, they're just doing that to get attention. She's like, I actively don't want this negative attention. I just want to do my fucking work. I just want to work.
Exactly. So she began to work at Carnegie Institute's Department of Terrestrial Magnetism. So Earth magnetism.
Oh. I was like, as opposed to alien magnetism?
In Washington, D.C. So that like she left her teaching position to take this. And she was the first female scientist on the department's staff. So really impressive. Throughout her career, Vera would face various obstacles due to sexist views on women in science in particular. But her ideas did begin to take off on a larger scale when she would start collaborating with Kent Ford, who was another astronomer, but he was also an instrument maker for astronomers. So he built, quote, the most sensitive spectrometer in existence to measure how much light different objects gave off at different wavelengths.
Oh, okay. So when you said instrument maker for astronomers, I'm like, what kind of instruments are astronomers into? Like, I'm thinking the cello. And I'm like, oh wait, no,
a nice string instrument. I'm like I feel like Vera's the type that she's like sitting here mapping
like
out
the
stars
cello,
with like very
bass,
soft strings in the background.
Like,
hell yeah.
Yep.
So the pair would use his spectrographs on a telescope located at the Lowell Observatory in Arizona, which would enable them to observe objects that had once gone undetected. And this was just the beginning of this like partnership together. And because she had young children, she did a lot of her work from home, which I love. Like, I just envision her like being like, David, stop running. I'm trying to trace stars.
God damn it.
But yeah, so during this time, she began to work on what would end up being a very controversial theory regarding those galaxy clusters that she had talked about previously in her work. So her and Ford would make hundreds of observations, mostly her, but he was there too. And the spectrograph that he had made really intensified the image, being able to which made her be able to see objects that were previously too dim for analysis. And so it's called the Rubin-Ford effect after the two of them.
Oh.
And what it is an apparent anisotropy, which is the property of non-uniformity in different directions. So it's expanding, but it's not expanding
like a mirror image.
So you think of if you think of a circle, if you expand a circle, it expands the same in all directions at once.
No, but that's what I mean. It's not a mirror image.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's expanding in different sizes.
It's asymmetrical. Yeah.
So that is how our universe expands. It doesn't expand the same in every direction. And they noticed this and they were like, okay, this is a thing. And they discovered it by studies of spiral galaxies, which the Milky Way is a spiral galaxy, but it's very, very hard to study our own galaxy because we're in an arm of it. So they were actually studying the Andromeda galaxy, which one is very, very bright, and two is the closest galaxy to us. But yeah, so they were studying that, and they study peculiar motion, which refers to the velocity of an object relative to a rest frame. So basically, okay, if this frame is at rest, how does this object move in relation to it? Mm-hmm. So on this scale in the universe, it was highly controversial, like I said. And originally it was published by other people, but people kind of ignored it because it was so controversial. But Ruben and Ford, or Vera and Ford, were able to kind of bring it back up. And originally it was dismissed because they were no, that's not a thing, they don't do that. It doesn't, the idea was objects in the center of galaxies move faster than objects on the outside of galaxies, which we now know is not true. But that was the original thing because they were oh, well, when you get closer or farther away from the center of the galaxy, it's going to move slower.
And I, as someone who knows nothing about astronomy, I'm I get the rationale behind that.
Oh, exactly. So yeah, it was originally dismissed, but now we know is correct.
Okay.
That no, there is no difference in speed, and we'll get into that in a second. So, Vera and Ford also very briefly studied quasars, but she was no, that's too controversial.
Jesus, I'm sorry. Just the fact that studying anything in space is controversial. I'm we all need to just sit back, smoke some weed, and calm the fuck down.
She also actually originally wasn't going to study galactic motion either, but her studies kind of led her there because she was, again, she was okay, that's very, very controversial. So she just kind
wants
of
to be left alone to do her research and her science.
So she was I'll just study the rotation of galaxies. That's not too controversial. We know they rotate.
Jesus Christ.
And so again, she starts with Andromeda again and looks at she kind of starts from the outside and works her way in, and she observed flat rotational curves, meaning the outermost components of the galaxy were moving just as quickly as those inside. And she was kind of I have this feeling she realized that and then probably went, shit. There's just this moment of God damn it, this is going to be way more controversial than I thought this was going to be. God damn it.
Every time I think I'm out, the controversy just draws me back in. And the irony of her not wanting to be controversial is that just her as a woman in astronomy is controversial.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Her mere existence is controversial.
Yep. So her research would show that spiral galaxies, so things like the Milky Way or the Andromeda galaxy, rotate quickly enough that they should actually not be galaxies. They should fly apart if only the gravity of their stars was what was holding them together. It's okay, you have all these masses. If they're all affecting each other's gravity, they should stick together. And it's no, they're moving fast enough that that's not a thing. They wouldn't hold together. And so then it became known as the galaxy rotation problem. And her results were eventually, now we know that it's because there's probably a large thing of dark matter in the center of most universes, if not all universes. And so she was kind of the first one to really discover hey, dark matter, or this unseen force is holding galaxies together.
It's like the way they're spinning, they should just kind of all spin off into space,
Exactly.
but there's something that's keeping them in line.
Right.
Ew, I don't know, that freaks me out for some reason.
It's not something like we really have to worry about because like for
Right.
where we are in our galaxy, like we're kind of caught by the sun.
Yeah.
But yeah, what keeps the sun from spinning off into nothing?
That's
It's
so
assumed to
crazy.
be dark matter.
You know, it kind of makes sense because, okay, the whole idea is like there's no air in space. So like if you throw an object, it's just going to keep going forever because there's nothing to slow it down unless it interacts with another object. So it's like, yeah, we're caught in the sun's rotation, but what the fuck is the sun caught
Exactly.
in? And then what the sun's caught in? And like what's kind of that glue at the center of it all?
Yeah, and I didn't like get really into it, but basically it's kind of like spiral galaxies in particular, but probably all galaxies have what's called like a dark matter halo, which is like essentially a spherical halo of dark matter that is at the like it kind of is really intense in the middle and then like spreads out, but like dissipates as you go farther out
It's a great
into a
band
universe.
name, Dark Matter Halo.
Exactly.
That's why I'm going to call this part of the episode Dark Matter Halo.
I'm okay with that. Yeah. But yeah, so they basically while she didn't know what dark matter was, I don't think that was really a thing back then, but her calculations showed that galaxies contain at least 5 to 10 times more mass because dark matter is actually really like heavy, which is interesting. But basically like, yeah, she's like, it contains way more mass than we can observe using the tools we have.
See, I knew dark matter was heavy because in Futurama, it's what Nibbler
it's like,
shits, and it's really like people can't carry it.
Exactly.
That's how I learned science.
Yeah. So she figured all this out, but I want to like point out that this process was not as simple as like just looking at data and being like, oh, yep, here we go. It took months, not only to collect the data, but to understand what it was that they were looking at. And it wasn't until Vera actually like made sketches of their findings that the answer that this dark matter, this unknown substance, became clear. And in the years following Vera and Ford's thing, mostly Vera at this point, but other physicists worked on developing a theoretical understanding of what it was, and that's where the term like dark matter came from. And their work didn't disprove it. It actually solidified Rubin and Ford's research as part of what is now like the scientific foundation of this.
Like this is a thing that people just learn is the truth.
And now scientists have figured out that dark matter makes up more than 80% of all matter in the universe.
Oh, that's right. And I remember that freaked me out.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I don't feel safe in the universe.
That's exactly what it is like, you know, and so this research was actually discussed in the 1991 PBS series, The Astronomers. Just in case anyone wants to know.
God bless PBS.
So during this time, another interest of Vera's was the phenomenon of counter rotation in galaxies. So like sometimes galaxies spin in the opposite direction of other ones. And her discovery was that some gas and stars move in the opposite direction to the rotation of the rest of the galaxy. Like she kind of just discovered that because like everyone thought like, oh, because a galaxy is moving in one direction, everything within that galaxy moves in that direction too. And she was like, nope, I figured out that doesn't happen. And she actually provided the first evidence of what is known as like galaxy mergers, which is where like two galaxies get too close to each other and then kind of merge into one or collide. And yeah, like, so like her research was a foundation for like the foundation for like people realizing that's a thing that happens too.
Okay, here's the thing. I love taking astrology in college.
I tried to dumb it down.
Wait, astronomy.
Yep.
Sorry. What? God damn it.
I was
I
like, wait a
would have
minute. Yeah.
loved to take astrology in college. That would have been so much fun.
I will say our astronomy teacher was amazing.
I
can't remember her name, but I can like picture her face.
Klein something. I know we've said her name on the pod.
Kleinberg.
I want to say it's like, yeah.
Like I can picture she had like frizzy hair and she was very like eccentric looking, but she was so fucking intelligent.
She had big like collegiate Miss Frizzle energy. But she did an amazing job, and I couldn't believe that I was actually understanding what she was telling me.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, okay.
There was too much
I'm
math.
trying to wrap my head around like the socioeconomic bullshit that we're dealing with just in our country. Like to think about galaxies merging, I'm like,
Yep.
I'm already overwhelmed.
Yep.
But it's really cool. And like, again, like, it's not my jam. It's definitely Vera's jam. And it's so cool that she's like, oh yeah, all this stuff, like this is how our universe works. These are like the basic principles of how the world that we live within operates.
Well, and it's crazy because it's like they didn't know those things back then. So like to be the person discovering this and just kind of like I said, I envisioned Vera like doing this research and being like, God fucking damn it. Like now I have to go give another speech to people that don't even want me in the room. God damn it. Robby, I need another glass of wine.
God damn it.
But Vera would remain active in astronomical research decades after this big discovery of hers. There was nothing as major as those two things, which kind of makes sense, you know, but like she would do a lot more within the field, and she would publish more than 100 scientific papers after that big discovery. And in recognition of her contributions to astronomy, she was elected to the National Academy of Science in 1981, and she would win various awards during her lifetime. In 1993, President Bill Clinton awarded her the National Medal of Science. In 1994, she received the Dickson Prize in Science from Carnegie Mellon Institute and the Henry Norris Russell Lectureship from the American Astronomical Society. And in 1996, she became the second woman, 168 years after my girl Carolyn Herschel.
Oh my God, bless
Episode
Carolyn
8.
Herschel. Oh my
Episode
God.
8.
That was the first time astronomical came
I was
up.
so drunk.
That was a rough time.
But so Carolyn Herschel received the gold medal of the Royal Astronomical Society of London in 1828. And Vera Rubin was the second woman, literally 168 years later, they finally gave the award to another woman. And that woman was Vera Rubin.
Carolyn Herschel was the one who had the brother who was kind of a prick, right? Yeah.
And
She
a lot
was
of
like
people
the
are like,
Cinderella.
I bet it was him. And it's like, no, it was fucking her. Fuck you.
I think I titled it like Cinderella of the Stars because it's like she's doing all the work for her brother, and then her brother's like, look what I did.
And she was like an old spinster lady that like got a lot of like flack for it. God, but it makes me mad that like the Royal Astronomical Society of London waited 160. Like, I'm glad Vera got it. She definitely deserves it. But like, dear fucking God, come on.
There's no way there were no other women during that period who didn't deserve this.
And in 1996, President Clinton also nominated her as a member of the National Science Board. And then in 2002, Discover magazine recognized Vera as one of the 50 most important women of science. Yeah, exactly. She also was awarded the James Craig Watson Medal by the National Academy of Sciences for her work on dark matter and mentorship of aspiring astronomers.
I love that.
Her Robby, the king of the episode, passed away in 2008.
No.
And Vera would die 8 years later on December 25th, 2016. In Princeton, New Jersey. She was 88 years old.
Oh my fucking God. She died in 2016 on Christmas?
Yeah. Prior to her passing, she was living with dementia in an assisted living facility. But that's not how she's remembered. She's remembered by her scientific foundings, but also through many other honors. She mentored a lot of young scientists. She's really been this woman that women in science, other women in science, or girls that want to get into science can look up to. She has a ridge on Mars named after her. There's an asteroid, a satellite, a galaxy.
Yes.
And there's the National Science Foundation's Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile. Notably, this is the first national observatory named after a woman.
And I bet they have multi-gendered bathrooms.
Exactly. Her memory also lives on in her 3 children. All of them hold doctorate degrees in science as well. I mean, so did her husband.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I love that.
And yeah, so she opened the door to many women in science and remained committed to her passion throughout her life. And she actually spoke to the 1996 graduating class at Berkeley, and she said, quote, this was, I think, specifically to the sciences, but she said, "I hope you will love your work as I love doing astronomy. I hope that you will fight injustice and discrimination in all of its guises, and I hope that you value diversity among your friends, among your colleagues, among the student body population. I hope that when you are in charge, you will do better than my generation has."
You guys, we cannot let Vera down.
So, I'm not done yet. So I mentioned there is a Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile. And so yeah, it was named after her due to her study on dark matter and her outspoken advocacy for equal treatment and representation of science. So like I said, it's done in Chile, and as of 2024, so last year, this extremely agile telescope is in place, and it is expected to be fully operational by this year. And I actually checked their website, and they're expecting their first images sometime in June or July.
Oh, cool.
So I'll keep that updated, and we'll post it on social media when it comes about. And remember a few episodes ago, I talked about the U.S. quarters, the women. She's actually going to be the final quarter of this year, so the final quarter of the entire series.
Fuck yes!
However, there is a little bit of controversy going on.
She hated that!
Not
she
about Vera herself, though. So Trump's push to end DEI efforts have affected this. Astronomers are expressing disappointment and alarm as the federally funded, even though it's in Chile, Rubin Observatory has altered the biography of the astronomer for whom the facility is named. The amended version of her biography curtails her legacy of championing women in science and removes mentions of the observatory's effort to reduce barriers for women in science and other historically underrepresented groups. The edits were first reported on January 30th, came as federal agencies across the government scrambled to revamp their websites in order to comply with the president's order to end DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion for those of you not living in America, efforts, and to remove mentions of them from public-facing websites. So there used to be a section of her biography titled "She Advocated for Women in Science." There still is. But it used to be 5 paragraphs long. It is now only 2. So they stripped it down and put it back up. They used to say, science is still a male-dominated field, but Rubin Observatory is working to increase participation for women and other people who have historically been excluded from science. Rubin Observatory welcomes everyone who wants to contribute to science and takes steps to lower or eliminate barriers that exclude those with less privilege. They completely took all of that out. And I think Vera would be fucking pissed.
She is pissed.
And the reason I say that is because she actually once wrote, "I live and work with 3 basic assumptions. 1, there is no problem in science that can be solved by a man that cannot be solved by a woman. 2, worldwide, half of all brains are in women. 3, we all need permission to do science, but for reasons that are deeply ingrained in history, this permission is more often given to men than women." Remember, I also mentioned she was born of Jewish parents and she was Jewish herself. And she actually shared throughout her life that she saw no conflict between science and religion. She actually said, "In my own life, my science and my religion are separate. I'm Jewish, and so my religion to me is a moral code and a history. I try to do my science in a moral way. And I believe that ideally," my notes cut off and they won't let me read the end of them. I believe that ideally science should be looked upon as something that helps us understand our role in the universe. And so she didn't let the fact that she was a woman interfere. She didn't let the fact that she didn't let her religion interfere. She was like, they don't have to be separate.
Again, it's always blown my mind the conflict between science and religion, because I don't think it's inherent. I think it's imposed.
Oh, exactly.
Because there are those
the whole
people,
women can't be in science thing.
Well, and then there are people who are like, well, the earth is only 5,000 years old. It's like, well, science can tell us that's not true. And that doesn't have to conflict with your religion inherently. But it's like, okay, the truth is somewhere in the middle here.
Exactly.
I don't know, growing up.
I feel like that's a good lesson in general of generally the truth of whatever the matter is going to be somewhere in the middle.
Well, and I like the idea. She's like, it's a moral compass and it's a history. Right. And my science is trying to understand, the present and everything else on a larger scale. Mm-hmm. I grew up, I loved science. I loved dinosaurs. I loved all of that stuff. And I grew up going to a Catholic school. And when I grew up and learned that there was this conflict between science and religion, and I did not fucking get it because I had been living my entire life with both of those things in perfect harmony.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, this is book burning. This is rewriting history. This is erasing the accomplishments of this isn't.
They still have her in there, but one of the key things about Vera is that she did so much of this with the controversy and pushed for women in science and pushed for all of this. So yeah, the fact that they're taking that out is not okay.
The Trump administration does not want us to recognize that women, people of color, that a lot of people have been historically excluded because they don't want us to be able to recognize it when it continues to happen and as it ramps up.
And so let's just
that
get
is
louder.
what they're erasing. They are rewriting history. They are erasing history. They think they're being history truthists, and it's the complete opposite. It is the complete opposite.
It's like that one book we got sent that was
oh my fucking God.
Let's talk about how slavery is not inherent to America, and we're except it is. We're a nation built on slaves.
You gotta.
No, you cannot be on our podcast.
Have you literally read anything in your life?
All right. I wanted to end this with a quote from Vera. It talks specifically about science, but I want every single person, whether you're in science, whether you're not, whether whatever, to particularly listen to the second part of this quote, because I want to end it for specifically on this quote. And this is, she gave this quote on May 17th, 1996. This is also part of her Berkeley commencement speech. Okay, you ready? Science is competitive, aggressive, and demanding. It is also imaginative, inspiring, and uplifting. You can do it too. Each one of you can change the world, for you are made of star stuff and you are connected to the universe.
You are made of star stuff and you are connected to the universe.
And each one of you can change the world.
You know how I was
that gave me goosebumps.
You know how I was talking about the ideas of galaxies merging and all that stuff. It feels too big for me to wrap my head around. There's a comfort in that because it's
we are all part of the universe.
And we are such small parts.
Matter is not destroyed. It is simply redistributed.
It's let's think about the bullshit arguments about bathrooms and who deserves basic human rights. It's we are literally tiny parts in this massive universe and we are all connected. And if we all just stopped and thought about that for 30 seconds, maybe we would stop being so fucking awful to each other.
Yeah.
The issues that we yell about, the alleged conflicts with who's using the bathroom and who's illegal and who's allowed to be where. It's we are making these things up and we are making these problems up.
Right.
There are galaxies literally merging right now. So maybe we need to calm down a little bit about, some of this made up bullshit.
Exactly. We're all part of the universe.
We are all made of star stuff.
We're all made of star stuff.
Good God.
That might have to be new merch.
We're all made of star stuff.
We're all made of star
so
stuff.
Don't be a dick. Well, I'm going to keep on with a theme.
Can we do our... Oh, I guess that is before our outro.
Yes.
My food just got delivered, so I'm like, food. But yes, let's talk about being brave. I hope everyone was brave the last week.
I hope you were brave. So this is 100 Days to Brave, devotions for unlocking your most courageous self. It is kind of religious, but again, I'm referring
we're going to make it...
I'm referring to God with she, her pronouns, because do I think God has a gender? No. But then why isn't calling God she, her any less valid than saying he, him?
We're just going to make it our own. That's where we're at.
So
we're all made of star stuff.
We're all made of star stuff. So day 2, why be brave? I got to travel to Honolulu, Hawaii to speak at a conference.
I want to go to Hawaii.
I know. I don't want to speak at a conference.
No, but I want to go to Hawaii.
I would speak at a conference if I got to go to Hawaii.
That is true.
One afternoon, I walked into... God, okay, sorry. We have like Hawaiian in here, and I didn't expect to be confronted with linguistic butchery while reading this fucking book. Sorry. I walked into the Kailua Starbucks to write for a bit, and I saw 0 tables available. I didn't really have a plan B for where to write, so I got in line for my drink anyway. A table opened up between a vacationing couple and 3 tan and adorable surfer dudes. Aww. The surfers were talking about their marriages, so I turned out because, they had wives already. I began to unpack, and just because of proximity, the tables were close, y'all. Okay, I kind of love how she's writing.
Yeah.
Like when she wrote, it's YA. I couldn't help but check back into their conversation, and I heard them talking about absolute truth and how God is the only thing that is absolute. And suddenly I realized I was watching 2 of them share their stories of Jesus with the third. My heart began to race. That conversation takes courage. Sharing your story takes guts. I know maybe you think I'm being dramatic, but listen, that guy, hearing how Jesus is the answer, his life is forever different and his future is forever altered because those 2 surfers were brave enough to say the things about Jesus that they know to be true. Seeing other people be brave makes me want to be brave too. It's a domino effect.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that part is accurate.
Yes. I felt it in me as I listened to them, the want to share my story. That's why you'll see rational adults go down a loop-de-loop water slide even if they don't want to, because they want to show their kids it isn't scary.
That is accurate.
That's why we have to start. That's why we have to go first. That's why we have to be brave, so that others will be inspired to be brave along with us. We can be brave because we are always meant to be brave. It is scary to be who you're meant to be. It doesn't feel easy because it's not. But we were made for this. Like today's scripture says, we have holy work. Why be brave? Because when we're brave enough to share the God stories in our lives, and I think
it's just editorial stories in our lives.
Editorial. I think God stories can be a lot of stories.
I think just the stories of our lives
and your genuine self.
Exactly,
and like your genuine truth.
When you're willing to open up to other people and talk about your genuine truth.
Yep. Like maybe in this situation, the genuine truth was like, okay, here's what Jesus means to me. In a different situation, it could be, hey, here's how I struggled with my mental health and how I've worked through it. And you being vulnerable gives other people permission to be vulnerable, and that's brave. It changes the people around us. It changes us to share them. So be brave. Think back on your day. Where can you see the higher power working on your behalf, or just showing up for you? Tell somebody.
Where can you see the star stuff and your connection to the universe?
Where can you see the star stuff? What I'm enjoying about this book is picking it, like getting down to like past the Jesus stuff. Yeah. And like, because that is a really good lesson. Being brave and open and vulnerable and genuine to yourself, whatever that means, gives other people permission.
Yeah.
You know, I worked with people at work who are very religious and are like pastors and preachers, and they very much they speak like this, or like, well, God believes, or I believe God wants that, you know. And as a jaded Catholic, I have to like pause and think, okay, but what can that mean to me?
Yeah.
You know, and also, hey, this is this person's truth, and that's not a bad thing. You know, and you can still find that way to connect with them.
Yeah.
So that's how to be
really
brave.
like that, yeah.
Be genuine. I mean, it kind of makes me think, Sophia, when she sponsored 5 glasses of wine, she said, you know, she struggles with mental illness, and
and appreciated how we're open we are about it.
That's brave. Yeah. And it's brave for her to be open about it.
It is. Especially like people you don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Be brave. You're all made of star stuff, and you can do it.
Like us on Facebook at Whining About Herstory, Instagram at WAHpad.
Our website is whiningaboutherstory.com, where you can find a link to all of our episodes and all of our merch. We'll get some star stuff merch out there. You can also find a link to our Buy Me a Coffee if you, like Sophia, want to be a badass and sponsor a few glasses of wine for us, or just one.
Go to buymeacoffee.com/WAHpod.
$5 per bottle of wine. Glass of wine. Glasses, I guess, because it's 2. It's me and Emily. There's also a Patreon where you can donate for as little as $1 a month to get some bonus content, as well as a monthly happy hour where you can meet me and Emily virtually face to face, and we'll do random shit.
There's cats, there's dogs, there's bisexuality as a religion involved.
I mean, obviously.
There's really uncomfortable would you rathers.
Yeah, we get deep sometimes.
It's
fun, though.
It got weird, but in a good way, I think.
I had fun.
I also had fun. I was also drinking, so that part's fun.
Yeah.
Also, rate us 5 stars wherever you listen, because it's a great way to be brave, and it pisses off all the right people.
It gives us the warm, fuzzy feelings in all the right places.
And God knows we need it. I was talking with someone. I was like, you know, I don't think I'm really on anyone's radar for like, you know, deporting me to a gulag or a concentration camp. But I also have 6 years of a fucking podcast about yelling at the patriarchy.
If they ever need if they ever need the proof,
I'm just saying the evidence is out there. So make it worth it. Rate us 5 stars wherever you listen. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Whining About Herstory. I'm Emily.
I'm Kelley.
Have an empowered day, y'all. Bye.
Go be made of star stuff.
You're already made of star stuff. Be brave with your star stuff. Throw it in people's faces. Throw it. Pocket stars.